The deleted episode was called The New Room. It starts like a normal day. The sun is shining, Peppa walks downstairs, Mummy is making breakfast, Daddy is reading his newspaper, and George is playing with his dinosaur. Everything feels calm and familiar. Later that day, Peppa runs down the hallway and suddenly notices a door that was never there before. It's at the end of the hallway near the stairs. The door looks completely normal, light-colored. Nothing special about it. "Mummy, did we always have this door?" Peppa asks. "What door?" Mummy replies from the kitchen. When Mummy comes into the hallway, the door is gone. Just a wall. Peppa blinks. She takes a step back. The door appears again. She slowly opens it. Inside is a room that looks a little like their living room, but it's emptier. The light feels colder. In the middle of the room stands Daddy Pig. "Daddy, what are you doing here?" Peppa asks. "I have always been here," he answers. His voice sounds flat. No joke, no laughter. "Is this a new room?" Peppa asks. He smiles. "This is your room, but this isn't my room." "Now it is," he says. Peppa feels uncomfortable. She closes the door and goes back to the hallway. Everything is normal again. Daddy is in the kitchen reading his newspaper like nothing happened. The next day, the door appears again. Peppa opens it. This time, Mummy is inside the room. She is standing still, holding a cup. "Mummy?" Peppa says. "Yes, Peppa. Why are you here?" "I have always been here." Her voice sounds just as flat as Daddy's did the day before. "You shouldn't go into other rooms," Mummy says. "But is this our room?" "No, it's yours." She smiles, but her eyes don't change. Peppa closes the door. Later that evening, the real Mummy acts completely normal, as if nothing strange happened. On the third day, the door appears again. Peppa is scared now, but she opens it anyway. George is standing inside. He isn't holding his dinosaur. He just stares at her. "George!" Peppa whispers. "You're late," he says clearly. "Late for what?" "We were waiting for you." "Who is we?" George smiles, but it's not his usual smile. "Everyone." The light in the room grows slightly dimmer. "You will stay here soon," he says. Peppa quickly slams the door and runs away. That evening, the whole family is sitting at the dinner table. Everything looks normal. Daddy laughs, Mummy pours tea, George eats quietly. Peppa finally asks, "Do we have a new room?" Daddy laughs. "What new room?" "There's a door in the hallway." Mummy shakes her head. "There are no new rooms in our house." "We've never seen any door," Daddy adds. George just looks at Peppa and says nothing. After dinner, Peppa walks back into the hallway. The door isn't there. She takes a step back. The door appears, slowly. It is slightly open, and light is coming from inside. Peppa walks closer and looks in. Daddy, Mummy, and George are standing inside the room together, side by side. They are all smiling, but none of them are blinking. "We have always been here," they say at the same time. Peppa quickly turns around. The hallway behind her is empty. When she looks back at the room, the light goes out. The episode begins like a completely ordinary day. Morning sunlight shines through the window and the familiar cheerful music plays. Peppa and George are having breakfast, Daddy Pig is reading his newspaper, and Mummy Pig is pouring juice. Everything feels calm and familiar. After breakfast, Mummy says they will go to school, then to the shop, and in the evening, they will visit the museum. Peppa is excited about the busy day ahead. At school, everything starts normally. Madame Gazelle is standing at the board and the children are sitting at their desks. But when the camera slightly pans toward the window, Miss Rabbit can be seen for a brief second standing in the corner of the classroom. She is completely still, writing something in a notebook. Peppa waves at her. "Hello, Miss Rabbit," she says. Miss Rabbit slowly turns her head and calmly replies, "I'm always here, Peppa." There is no emotion in her voice, just a flat, even sentence. Peppa looks confused because Miss Rabbit usually works in other places, but none of the other children react. After school, the family goes to the supermarket. Miss Rabbit is standing behind the register. The same smile, the same posture. "Hello, Miss Rabbit," Peppa says again. "I am always here, Peppa," Miss Rabbit replies in the exact same tone. Peppa frowns slightly, but Daddy Pig laughs and says, "Miss Rabbit is very hard-working." Then the family gets on a bus. The driver is Miss Rabbit. She doesn't even look at the road. Her eyes stare straight ahead, barely blinking. "I am always here, Peppa," she says again when Peppa greets her. The intonation perfectly matches the previous scenes. Even the pause before the words is identical. At the museum, the tour guide is Miss Rabbit. At the cafe, Miss Rabbit. In the park, the ice cream seller, Miss Rabbit. With each appearance, her voice sounds more mechanical. The background music gradually becomes quieter, the colors slightly fade, and her smile seems wider than it should be. Peppa begins to notice something strange. She asks Daddy Pig, "How does Miss Rabbit manage to be everywhere?" Daddy laughs a little longer than usual and replies, "She's just very organized." But his laughter sounds unnatural, as if the same audio clip is repeating at the same volume. The next day, everything repeats, but faster. Peppa goes to the park and sees 3 Miss Rabbits at once. One sitting on a bench, one in the kiosk, and one at the other end of the path. They don't move. Slowly, they turn their heads toward Peppa. "I am always here," they say, almost at the same time. The sound distorts slightly. That evening, Peppa looks out of her bedroom window. On the distant hill stands a silhouette with long ears. It does not move. Peppa blinks, and the silhouette disappears. She turns back toward the window, and for a split second, she sees Miss Rabbit reflected in the glass behind her. When Peppa spins around, the room is empty. At night, Peppa wakes up with the feeling that someone is in the house. She steps into the dark hallway. At the end of it stands a figure. It is Miss Rabbit. She does not move. Her eyes are open, staring directly at Peppa. "I am always here," she quietly repeats. The lights flicker, and the figure disappears. In the morning, everything seems normal again. School, lessons, children laughing. But when recess begins, Peppa notices that every adult on the playground is Miss Rabbit. The vendor, the driver, the guard, they stand completely still. Then, all at once, they turn their heads toward Peppa. Their smiles are identical. "I am always here, Peppa," they say in unison. The music disappears completely. Peppa steps backward. Her breathing becomes faster. She looks for her parents, but for a brief moment their faces seem to resemble Miss Rabbit. The same eyes, the same smile. The camera abruptly cuts. The family is back at home. Everything is quiet. Daddy Pig is reading his newspaper. Mummy Pig is cooking dinner. And George is playing. A commercial plays on the television. On the screen appears Miss Rabbit. She looks directly into the camera. She does not blink. She slowly smiles. "I am always here." The screen distorts for a second. The final shot shows the Pig family's house at night. In one of the windows, a dark silhouette with long ears appears for a brief moment. The light goes out. The episode begins calmly. An ordinary day. Peppa and George are playing in the living room. Daddy Pig is putting together a shelf, and Mummy Pig is cooking lunch. Everything is bright and sunny, and the usual cheerful music plays. Nothing feels strange. Peppa runs down the hallway and suddenly stops. In the wall, between the staircase and her parents' bedroom, there is a small red door. It wasn't there before. It's neat, slightly smaller than a normal door, with a round golden handle. "Mummy, what is that door?" Peppa asks. Mummy looks out from the kitchen. "What door, Peppa?" When Mummy walks closer, the door is gone. Just an ordinary wall. Peppa blinks. She takes a step back, and the door appears again. Bright red. Peppa carefully touches the handle. The door opens without a sound. Behind it, there is no darkness. There is another hallway. It looks like their house, but cleaner, brighter, quieter. Peppa steps inside. The music disappears. In front of her is the living room. Daddy Pig is sitting at the table. Mummy Pig is smiling. George is playing. Everything looks the same, but too perfect. Nothing is out of place. Not a single toy is messy. "Hello, Peppa," Mummy says. "Today we will do anything you want," Daddy Pig adds. Peppa smiles. "Really?" "Of course, Peppa," Mummy replies. "You are always right." Peppa suggests jumping in muddy puddles inside the house. "Wonderful idea," Daddy Pig says calmly, but no one laughs. They jump, but there is no joyful sound. Their faces are smiling, but there is no laughter. Peppa begins to feel something is wrong. "Let's eat cake for breakfast." "Wonderful idea," Mummy replies again. "You are always right, Peppa." Their voices are soft, too soft, almost empty. Peppa looks at George. "George, roar!" George opens his mouth. Silence. He moves the dinosaur, but it makes no sound. In this world, there is no laughter, no noise, no disagreement, only agreement. Peppa walks to the window. Outside is the green hill, but the sky is still. The clouds do not move. Birds are frozen in the air. "What if I say the sky is green?" Peppa asks. "The sky is green," Mummy calmly repeats. "You are always right, Peppa." Peppa feels a wave of unease. "What if I say you're not my parents?" Daddy and Mummy continue smiling. "We are whatever you want us to be." Their smiles slowly widen, but their eyes do not change. Peppa steps back. "I want to go home." "This is home," Mummy replies. "You can stay here forever. No one argues here. Everything is perfect." Peppa suddenly realizes that no one has laughed even once. She runs back toward the hallway. The red door is still open. Before stepping through, she turns around. They are all standing in the same places, smiling, not blinking. Peppa runs back into her real house. The music returns. The colors feel warmer. In the hallway, there is only a normal wall. The red door is gone. Peppa sighs in relief. "It was just a dream," she says. But on the wall, a small red handle remains. Neat, perfect. Peppa slowly touches it, and in that moment the door appears again, but this time it is already closed. From the inside, someone slowly turns the handle and gently shuts it completely from the other side. The music abruptly cuts off. The final shot shows the normal hallway of the pig family's house, but a faint red outline of a door is still visible on the wall, and it feels like someone is quietly waiting behind it. It starts like a completely normal morning. The sun is shining through the window. Peppa walks downstairs. Mummy Pig is making breakfast. George is pushing his dinosaur across the floor, and Daddy Pig is sitting at the table reading his newspaper. He looks up and says, "Good morning, Peppa." But right away, Peppa feels that something isn't right. Her dad's voice sounds slightly quieter and more even than usual, without his normal, cheerful tone. He laughs at something in the newspaper, but the laugh sounds strange. Too identical, with no pauses, no breathing, almost like a recording playing. The whole day seems calm, but Peppa starts noticing small things. Daddy doesn't get out of breath on the hill. He doesn't mix up the map. He doesn't trip or fall into a muddy puddle like he normally would. He does everything correctly, too correctly. Even when George spills his juice, Daddy doesn't react the way he usually does. He just says, "That's fine," in a flat voice. His face stays calm. When Peppa tells him an old joke that always made him laugh the loudest, he simply smiles and says, "That is funny." But he doesn't laugh, and his eyes don't change, like there's no real happiness behind them. Peppa decides to test him again. At dinner, she sits in Daddy's usual chair on purpose. Normally, he would notice and joke about it, but he just stands there for a moment, as if he doesn't understand something is different. Then he slowly sits in another chair and continues eating. No joke, no smile. That night, Peppa wakes up because of a quiet knocking sound. Knock, knock, knock. At first, she thinks it's the wind, but it happens again. She walks into the hallway and sees the kitchen light on. Daddy is standing by the wall staring at one spot. He isn't moving. He isn't blinking. "Daddy," Peppa whispers. He slowly turns his head and says, "I am here, Peppa." He smiles, but his eyes look empty. "Why aren't you sleeping?" she asks. "I don't get tired," he replies, and the sentence sounds just as flat as it did that morning. In the morning, everything looks normal again. Daddy laughs loudly, complains that he's tired, breathes heavily after climbing the stairs. But Peppa doesn't believe it. She starts asking questions. "Daddy, remember when we got stuck in the elevator?" she asks. "Of course," he answers without hesitation. "Where was that?" He pauses for a second. "In the elevator," he says, and it sounds wrong, like he isn't remembering, just repeating the word. Later that day, Peppa notices the basement door is slightly open. It's usually locked, and from downstairs, she hears the knocking again. "Knock, knock," she asks Mummy, but Mummy calmly says, "Daddy is upstairs and everything is fine." Peppa knows that isn't true. She carefully opens the door and walks down the dark stairs. The basement feels cold and quiet. The knocking gets louder. In the corner, there is a large wooden box. From inside, someone whispers, "Peppa!" It's her real dad's voice, weak and scared. "Peppa, that's not me upstairs." Peppa spins around. At the top of the stairs stands the new dad. He looks down at her and smiles that same even smile. "I have always been here," he says calmly. His voice now sounds deeper and colder. The lights begin to flicker. The real daddy knocks again from inside the box, asking for help. Peppa quickly grabs a key lying nearby and unlocks it. The real daddy climbs out of breath, dirty, shaking. The new dad slowly steps down one stair and says quietly, "There is only room for one dad in this house.